بسم الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. My dear brothers and sisters, I welcome you to our weekly halaqah, which is today is the 12th of Rabiuth-Thani, 1442 years after the hijrah or the migration of our beloved Prophet ﷺ, which coincides with the 27th of November 2020. Tonight we are going to continue discussing the aqeedah of Imam Sufyan Thawri rahimahullah ta'ala, which we started a couple of weeks ago, I believe 2-3 months ago, and every now and then we are basically taking a chunk out of that advice that he gave to his student Shu'aib ibn Harb, and we are making a theme out of the classes, and so that it doesn't become boring. In one class we don't mention everything, so we take our time and understand all these important things that this great Imam taught his student. And this is of course being reported with an authentic chain in the book Sharh Usul I'tiqad Ahli Sunnati wal Jama'ah by Imam Lalika'i rahimahullah ta'ala. So Imam Sufyan Thawri, after talking about, if you remember last time, what we spoke about is the Sunnah and the sahabah, the status of the sahabah and so on and so forth. After explaining that, he says, Imam Sufyan Thawri in his Risala, he says, Ya Shu'aib ibn Harb, O Shu'aib ibn Harb, La yanfa'uka ma katabtu laka. It will not benefit you with regards to what I write for you or what I wrote for you. Hatta tara al-masha ala al-khuffaini duna khali'ihima a'dalu indaka min ghasli qadamaik. Until you see wiping on top of the khuf or wiping on top of the footwear without taking them off is a'dal, better, more just for you than washing the feet. And there is one more thing I wanted to cover today, but after I arranged the class, I figured out that it will not be possible to squeeze in both of them. And the other one he mentions, which will be the topic next time, the issue of saying the basmala, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, when reciting in the prayer, should be say it loudly or silently. That is the topic that he discusses. So he talks about here the very important topic of mash ala al-khuffain, or wiping on top of the khuf or the footwear. And he mentions here that mash on the khuf is better than washing the feet. The ulamah, they differed. Some of them, they said washing is better than wiping, because washing requires more work, so there's more reward. The other ulama, they said no, wiping is better than washing, because this was done by the sahabah, the Prophet ﷺ and the sahaba, and the narrations are mutawaatir. And the ulama, they said that really there is no way you can say this is better than that. Of course, in some cases washing is what you have to do. For example, if you are making wudu for the first time, you have no tahara, of course in this case you cannot wipe, it has to be washed. There is no point, there is no discussion of even considering what is better. Here you have to wash. Now here is the thing, that once you washed and we put the footwear on and we break our wudu while wearing that footwear, at this point when we want to make a wudu, is it better to wipe or wash? The ulama, they said, both are good, as long as the person believes that wiping is from the sunnah and he knows this is a rukhsa, it is a gift from Allah, it is not a azima, it is not a must that we have to wipe, and he wants to do it, that is definitely hugely rewarding. But if he says that I know this is sunnah and I have no problem with that, but I still want to wash, that is wonderful too, no problem with that. But with regards to the rukhsa or the gift, a lot of people, when they hear the word rukhsa, they think that if they take the gift or this flexibility that Allah gave them, their ibadah will be less. This is not true. Because we have the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ on the authority of Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, and both the narrations with both the wordings are authentic. The Prophet ﷺ said, Inna Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala yuhibbu an tu'ta rukhasahu. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves that you take the rukhsa, kama yukrahu an tu'ta ma'siyatahu. Like the way He hates that you do the ma'siyah. The same way Allah ta'ala hates that when we do the haram, is the same intensity with which He loves that we do take the rukhsa. In another narration, Abdullah ibn Umar's wording, that the Prophet ﷺ said, Inna Allah yuhibbu an tu'ta rukhasahu. That Allah loves that you take the rukhsa. Kama yuhibbu. Like the way He loves an tu'ta azaimahu. Like the way He loves that you take the obligation. So, there is really no way we can say this is better than that. Both are from the Prophet. If both are from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and one is a rukhsa, it's good that we take it. It's a gift from Allah. Now, what is the proof of wiping over the socks? Does the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention wiping over the socks? The answer is yes. General and specific. And one of the great Imam, the Muhaddith from Egypt, Imam Ahmad Shakir rahimahullah, in his book, in the book of Al-Mas'al al-Khuffain of this is the book of Imam Jamaluddin al-Qasimi rahimahullah. In this book he wrote a muqaddimah, introduction. In there he mentions this, that in general all the verses, وَمَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ, whatever your messenger gives you, take it. وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُ, and whatever he forbids you, stay away from it. For example, وَأَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ ذِكْرًا لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ, we have revealed to you the dhikr to explain to the people, مَا نُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ, what has been revealed to them. All of these general statement, وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ, obey Allah and obey the messenger. And all of these ayat, and there is plethora of ayat indicating to us the obligation to go to the Prophet ﷺ to understand the bayan of the Quran. In here there is the implicit, not explicit, implicit indication of wiping over the socks, because the Prophet wiped over the socks. He commanded to wipe over the sock in certain occasions, as we will see insha'Allah ta'ala. But we have also explicit command, an explicit not command, explicit reference to wiping over the footwear. Allah Ta'ala says in Surah Al-Ma'idah, this is the verse of the wudu, verse number 6, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, idha qumtum ila salat, when you are ready to pray, okay, when you intend to pray, faghsilu wujuhakum, wash your face, wa aydiyakum ila al-marafiq, and both of your hands until the marafiq, the elbow, wamsahu bi ru'usikum, and wipe on top of your head, wa arjulakum, and your feet. Now here arjulakum with the nasb or the fatha is talking about washing, so it goes back to washing the face and the hand and the feet. Okay, وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ, and both of your feet including your ankles. Now this is the recitation that we recite most commonly. But there is the other recitation of this same verse, which is وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ, with the kasra. So when it is with the kasra, it is talking about وَامْسَحُوا, wiping. Wamsahu bi ru'usikum, wipe your head, wa arjulikum, and wipe your feet. And this recitation is very famous. It is the recitation of Ibn Kathir al-Makki, the recitation of Abi Amr al-Basri, is the recitation of Shu'ba an Asim, and also it is the recitation of Hamza al-Kufi. So this is a thabit recitation from the Prophet ﷺ, both Arjulakum talking about washing the feet, Arjulikum talking about wiping the feet. But when to wipe and when to wash, Quran explicitly doesn't say. It is the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that indicates us when to wash and when to wipe. We cannot just choose washing and wiping anytime. Okay, so when we look into the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, we see that the narrations of wiping over the footwear is mutawaatir. Mutawaatir means that's narrated by more than 7, 8, 9 sahabi. And there's a difference of opinion with regards to what is a mutawaatir. Some sahabah, some of the muhaddithun, they put a specific number. I can't exactly right now remember that, but maybe 8, some say 9, some say 10. I can't exactly remember right now. But there is a certain number. If there is certain number of reported from the Prophet ﷺ, from the sahaba, then from the sahaba, a same group or more reported from the tabi'in, and from that, and every single level, there is a certain number that is crossing, then this narration is called a mutawaatir narration. Meaning, there is no way possible that there is a mistake here. Okay? And of course, if a narration is ahad, less than a certain number of mutawaatir, and it is authentic, it's authentic. It's hujjah. But when it is mutawaatir, it's even more. There's no argument about this. So no ulama from the Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they disagree about this matter of wiping. Except there is two groups, and they are not from the Sunni. They are deviant groups. One of them is the Rafidah, the Shias, and the other one is the Khawarij. As for the Rafidah, the Shias, we should know that they do not have any washing of feet, by the way. And they reject the wiping on the footwear. When they make the wudu, what they only have is wiping their feet. They only wipe their feet. So they never wash their feet, and they deny wiping over the socks. And same thing with the Khawarij. And our ulama, of course, they get this from their books. And one of our noble teacher, when he was giving a class of Masal al-Khuffain, he mentions a excerpt of one of the books of a Khawarij. His name is Abdullah As-Salimi, in his book Ma'arij al-Amal ala Madarij al-Kamal. This is one of the Khawarij from the Ibadiyin. And these are, as you know, that one of the state, Islam, quote-unquote Islamic state of Oman, their official aqeedah is the Ibadi Khawariji aqeedah. We should know that. And they are the ones who published this book, by the way. In his book, he said, وَذَهَبَ أَصْحَابُنَا وَجَمِيعِ فِرَقِ الْخَوَارِجِ وَجَمِيعِ الشِّيَعِ إِلَى إِنْكَارِ مَسْحِ الْخُفَّيْنِ. So this is from their words, not from our words. He said that, and some of our companions and majority of the groups of the Khawarij, and majority, if not all, the groups of the Shias, inkar, they deny masah al-khuffain, wiping on top of the footwear. Then he says, وَقَالَ بَعْضُ أَصْحَابِنَا, and some of our companions say, أَنَّ مَسْحَ الْخُفَّيْنِ bid'ah, that masah al-khuffain is an innovation. وَمَنْ مَسَحَ عَلَى الْخُفَّيْنِ, and the one who wipes on top of the socks or the footwear, إِلَىٰ أَنْ مَاتْ, until he dies doing that, فَهُوَ مِنَ الْهَالِكِينَ, then he is one of the ruined ones. This is the aqeedah of the Khawarij and the Shia. For this reason, many of the ulama, including, as we are studying now, the aqeedah of Imam Sufyan al-Thawri, and others, when they discuss the important topic of the aqeedah of Ahlul Sunnah, or the belief of the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they injected this in there, specifically. Why? Because you would be wondering, Masah al-Khuffain should be a topic of the fiqh, quote unquote. Yes, quote unquote, from the jurisprudence, like, making wudu, raising the hand in the prayer, and so on and so forth. Why they specifically mention this? This is the reason. Because from that time on, people, these deviant groups, they were coming and denying these things. So the ulama, they made sure that the aqeedah of the Muslims, they stay upon the manhaj of the Prophet ﷺ and as-sahabat al-kiram, the day the Prophet ﷺ died. And that's why Imam al-Tahawi, who is the great Hanafi scholar, in the aqeedah, he said, وَنَرَى الْمَسْ, and we see that the mas, wiping, alal khuffain, upon the footwear, fil hadr was safr, while we are resident and while we are in traveling, kama ja'at al-athar, like the way based upon the narrations which came. And many other ulama, like Imam Abul Hasan al-Ash'ari, in his book Maqalat al-Islamiyya or Islamiyin, the famous book of Abul Hasan al-Ash'ari, they spoke about these topics in the study of the aqeedah, to make sure that the Sunnis, they know what the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is with regards to Masah al-Khuffayn. Masah al-Khuffayn, as we said, it is a narration which reaches the level of tawaatur. This is something very important for us to remember, so that we do not have any doubt about this. That's why one of the great Imam, his name is At-Tawdi al-Maliki, one of the Maghribi scholar, in his explanation of Sahih al-Bukhari. And these ulama, they sometimes put some words of poetry to make us remember what are the most important mutawaatir narration. He said, "Mimma tawatara hadithu man kadhab." From the narrations which are mutawaatir is the hadith man kadhab, and he's talking about the hadith man kadhaba alayya muta'ammidan falyatabawwa maq'adahu minan nar. The one who intentionally lies upon me, he will find his seat in the hellfire. Wa man bana lillahi baytan wahtasab. And with regards to the hadith, the one who builds the house for Allah, Allah will build the house for him in paradise. This narration is also mutawaatir. Wa ru'yatun, and this is talking about seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This narration, mutawaatir. Wa shafa'atun, and the narration of intercession. This is a mutawaatir narration. Wal hawdu, and the narrations with regards to the hawd, the pool that will be given to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wa mashu khuffayn, and wiping on top of the socks. Wa hatihi ba'du. And this is how they explain all of this for the aqeedah of the Sunnis, so that remember that this is one of the most important hadith, because it reaches the narration of tawatur. Many sahabah reported this, as we will see inshallah. First, let's start with Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala, and this is the king of the book of hadith, Sahih al-Bukhari or Sahih al-Jami', and he brings the hadith of Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, the first hadith of Masah al-Khuffayn, with regards to Masah al-Khuffayn. Ibn Umar narration, this narration is very interesting, and I'm going to give you just the gist of it, because we cannot go through all of the narrations. This narration is reported by Imam Malik in his Muwatta, Imam Ahmad in his Musnad, before Imam al-Bukhari in his Sahih, and other ulama, and some of the turuq are authentic, very authentic, including the turuq of Imam al-Bukhari. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, he went to Kufa, and he saw one of the great sahabi Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, Ashri Mubashirin. Okay, he was wiping over socks, فَأَنْكَرَهَا, and he denied this, in the sense that he said, what are you doing? He could not believe that this is correct. Now Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas is a sahabi, but Abdullah ibn Umar is also a sahabi. Okay, so Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas said, ask your dad, meaning Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu. But Ibn Umar forgot to ask his father. So when Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, there was a gathering where all of them, they met. So at that time Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas asked Ibn Umar, did you ask your father? He said, I forgot. He said, now ask your father with regards to what I said to you. So when he asked his father, the great Khalifa Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, he said, إذا حدثك سعد بشيء فلا ترد عليه. If Sa'ad narrated to you something, don't reject it. Don't just let it go aside. Then he said, فإن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يمسح على الخفين. Indeed, the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم used to wipe on top of the khuf, or on top of his footwear. Another narration he mentioned in Musnad Imam Ahmad, he said, كنا ونحن مع نبينا صلى الله عليه وسلم ونمسح على خفافنا. We were, now he's talking about we, meaning the Sahaba, Muhajirun and Ansar. So from the narration of Umar, it reaches the tawatur. You do not even have to know the names of the people who were there. He said kunna, talking about the Sahaba, it is known. But how did Abdullah ibn Umar didn't know? He is one of the major Sahabi. Sometimes happens, all alim will not know everything. That is something known. Okay, so he said, we were with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we used to wipe on top of our socks. Qala Ibn Umar, so Ibn Umar, his son, asked him, even when you went to the bathroom, and you came from the bathroom using, the big one and the small one, فَقَالَ عُمَرُ نَعَمْ وَإِنْ جَاءَ مِنَ الْغَائِطِ وَالْبَوْلِ. Yes, whenever we used to come and do, from the bathroom. So this is one, and from that, قال نافع, the student of Ibn Umar, he said that وَكَانَ Ibn Umar بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ يَمْسَهُ عَلَيْهِمَا. From that time on, Ibn Umar used to wipe on top of the khuf, or the footwear. We are going to talk about what is the definition of khuf and what is the definition of jawrab and what is the definition of ni'al. All of these things we are going to discuss inshallah gradually. Then Imam Bukhari also brings a hadith of Ja'far ibn Amr ibn Umayyah ad-Damri and Abihi, which is Amr ibn Umayyah ad-Damri, the Sahabi. Another Sahabi, he reported, قال رأيت, I saw the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam يمسح على عمامته وخفيه. He was wiping on top of his turban or his cap or his headwear and his khuf of his footwear. And then of course we have the very famous narration of Mughira ibn Shu'bah radiyallahu anhu. This is one of the major narration with regards to wiping over the khuf. And this narration comes in many places in Sahih al-Bukhari. We have the Mukhtasar of Sahih al-Bukhari by Imam al-Albani rahimahullah, although unfortunately he could not complete it rahimahullah ta'ala. I think he went to until kitab al-Janaiz, if I'm not wrong. There could be some follow-up of that work that our Sheikh, one of our Sheikh Abu Khalil was mentioning. I can't remember right now. But what I have is until the Janaiz, the book of the Mukhtasar of Imam al-Albani of the Sahih of al-Bukhari. What Imam al-Albani he did is that he went to all the places where Imam al-Bukhari would report a narration several times, and he would bring all of the wordings together so you can have the real picture. The full, not the real, the full picture. The full picture is, Mughira ibn Shu'bah said he was in one of the expedition with the Prophet ﷺ. It was night, and in one narration it says most likely it was the Ghazwat Tabuk. It was one of those severe battles. Although there was no battle, but it was a very severe test for the Sahabat al-Kiram, the Ghazwat Tabuk. And he said that the Prophet ﷺ got down from his mount and he wanted to go to answer the call of nature, and then he disappeared in the darkness of the night, and then he came back and he told Mughira ibn Shu'bah to carry the dalwa or the pot with the water, and he said, I poured on the water. He washed all the parts of the wudu, and he was wearing a jubba, a dress which is Shamiya, from the Sham. They call it from Syria, not necessarily from Syria, because Sham is a big land. The Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, all of this is in the time of the Prophet ﷺ were called the Sham in the north. And the Prophet ﷺ wanted to take out his arms, to wash his arms from the sleeves, but it was too tight. So then he took it out from beneath it and he washed his arms. And Mughira ibn Shu'bah said, I wanted to take off his khuf. And this is very important, because this is one of the principle of wiping over the socks. When he said, I was going to take off the khuf so that the person could wash, the Prophet ﷺ said, Da'huma, leave them, فَإِنِّي أَدْخَلْتُهُمَا طَاهِرَتَيْن, because I wore it while I was tahir. And the ulamah explained this wording of the Prophet ﷺ as that this tahir means he made the wudu where he washed his feet. So once you wash your feet and you wear your footwear, okay, and you break your wudu on top of that footwear, as long as you don't take it off after you break the original wudu, then now you can wipe on top of it. Why? Because of the narration of Mughira ibn Shu'bah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu wa ardahu. And this is also reported by Imam Muslim. I don't want to go into details too much. The next narration, now we go to the narrations of Imam Muslim, what he reported with regards to Mas'al al-Khuffayn. And he brings the very important hadith of Jarir ibn Abdullah al-Bajali. Now there is so many sahabah who reported. Of course, why the narration of Jarir ibn Abdullah is so important, we will know inshallah. So the narration says, An Hammam, the tabi'i, قال بال جرير ثم توضأ ومسح على خفيه. So Jarir, he urinated and then he wiped on top of his socks, meaning he made wudu and wiped on top of his socks. فَقِيلَ تَفْعَلُ هَذَا, he said, somebody asked him, it was said to him, do you really do this? فَقَالَ نَعَمْ, he said, yes. رَأَيْتُ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم بَالٍ, I saw the Prophet ﷺ urinating, bala, ثُمَّ تَوَضَّأَ, then he made wudu, وَمَسَعَ عَلَى خُفَّيْهِ, then he wiped on top of his khuf. قال الأعمش, then one of the sub-narrator, Al-A'mash said, قال Ibrahim, Ibrahim an-Nakhai said, كَانَ يُعْجِبُهُمْ هَذَا الْحَدِيث. This narration used to amaze them, لِأَنَّ إِسْلَامَ جَرِيرٍ, because the Islam of Jarir ibn Abdullah al-Bajali, كَانَ بَعْدَ نُزُولِ الْمَائِدَةِ, because he accepted Islam after the revelation of al-Ma'idah. Why is this important? Because the verse in Ma'idah says, Allah Ta'ala commands, wipe your head and wash your feet. Now we understood that there is other qira'at which explains the wiping. Okay, but somebody can come and say Quran is saying wash. Okay, so the Sunnah comes and says, yes, the Quran says wash, but the Prophet ﷺ has given extra information, لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ. In some cases you can wipe. And on top of that, we already clarified the authentic recitation that this cannot be rejected. وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ. On top of that, we have the hadith of Jarir ibn Abdullah al-Bajali. So, Jarir ibn Abdullah al-Bajali's report is the last matter with regards to wiping over the socks. This is how the Prophet ﷺ died. Anybody who wants to deny it, anybody who has problem with this, has problem with the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We cannot pick and choose. And this is why now you understand why the ulama, they put this in the topic of aqeedah. Because every small and big thing that is from Allah, as small as raising the hand in the prayer. Why we raise our hand to the level of the shoulder? Why can't we just say Allahu Akbar and just put the hand here? Because the Prophet did it. Now if somebody doesn't know and he did something, that's one thing. But if somebody knows here and he says, no, I want to just do it like this, I say, no. But he says, this is not part of aqeedah, this is not, why you guys are making big deal out of it, this is not a great matter, this is not pillar of Islam. We say, no, hold on. One of the major pillar of faith is to believe in Allah. Which means what? Anything that He tells you, sami'na wa ta'na. Listen and obey. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala criticized the Bani Israel when Allah ta'ala told them, enter the town and say, hitta. And they said, henta. So Allah said, Allah sent upon them ridges from the sky because of the changing of the words. So something is from Allah, we have to accept it. We cannot play games over here. We cannot say, no, I feel better about washing. No, why do you feel better about washing? You now know that wiping the Prophet did, sallallahu. Why you have problem with that? You cannot have problem with that. You cannot have problem with that. You have to have full support of this because this is from the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu. Then Imam Muslim also brings the hadith of Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman radiallahu anhu. Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman is another great sahabi who is known as the one who was given he used to ask a lot about the fitan trials. And we are talking about here great companions who reported this sahih, thabit, with the chain of narration authentic like the sun outside in the sky or the moon outside in the sky. As the truth about the sun and the moon is more truth about these narrations. Hudayfa ibn al-Yamani mentions that one day he was with the Prophet ﷺ and the Prophet ﷺ came to the dumpster of a group of people, a particular tribe, and urinated there standing. And this shows that standing and urinating is jaiz, allowed, as long as the person can protect himself from the splashing of the urine. And he said, I went aside, the Prophet ﷺ asked me to come near, and I went near him and I stood there behind his heels. He then performed ablution and wiped over his khuf, over his socks. The other narrations of the sahabah al-kiram radiallahu anhu. Same report with Bilal ibn Rabah. This is the mu'adhin of the Prophet ﷺ, the one who was in charge of the Prophet's financial matters, as we have the hadith in Sunnah Abi Dawud. He said that he saw the Prophet ﷺ wiping over his khuf and his khimar. Khimar is talking about anything that covers. Now khimar, usually we call nowadays the khimar, the scarf that the women wear to cover their top and the bosom. And as you can see here, a sahabat al-kiram used to refer the headgear the Prophet used to wear as also khimar, because it is covering the head. Then we have the very beautiful narration in Sahih Muslim on the authority of Shuraih ibn Hani, and he came to our mother Aisha and he asked her about wiping over the socks, and look at her answer. Okay, although she was so knowledgeable, but when they knew something, but they knew that another sahabi knew it better, they would tell their students, go and get the information from him, because they wanted him to directly get the information from that sahabi. Many of the sahaba did that, and in this case our mother, he said, Ataitu Aishata أسألها عن المس. I came to Aisha and I asked her about the mas. على الخفين. فقال عليك بابن أبي طالب. He said that go to Ibn Abi Talib. فاسأله فإنه كان يسافر مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Because he used to travel with the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم. فسألناه. So I asked Ali. فقال جعل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ثلاثة أيام ولياليهن. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم has stipulated 3 days and 3 nights for a lil musafir, for a travel, wa yawman wa layla, and 1 night and one day lil muqim, for the resident, So now we know that we can keep on wiping on top of our footwear upon which we broke our wudu, as long as we did not remove it after we broke the wudu where we washed our feet. Then we can keep on wiping on top of it for 3 days, 72 hours if we are a traveler, and 24 hours if we are a resident. From the hadith of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. And there are also other narration, like the narration of Safwan ibn Assal in Sunnah at-Tirmidhi, which is authentic. He said, when we were traveling, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam would order us to remove our khuf, order us not to remove our khuf. Order here meaning like recommended. Of course, it is not a azima, okay, that you must keep the socks on and you must wipe on top of it, okay. But this ya'muruna, he's talking about the recommended advice from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not an azima. This is a rukhsa, of course, not to remove our socks for 3 days and 3 nights, except for janaba, except when we are when we had the great or the bigger hadath or the bigger impurification, but not for defecating or urinating or sleep. So in this situation, when we break the wudu, we also have hadath. When we urinate, we have hadath. When we defecate, we have hadath. When we sleep, we have hadath. We broke our wudu. When somebody passes gas, they committed hadath. So now they have to make wudu. In such scenario, you do not have to take off your socks. You should wipe on your socks and take the rukhsa of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is reported by Ali ibn Abi Talib, Safar ibn Assal, and also Auf ibn Malik al-Ashja'i, and Imam Muqbil ibn Hadi al-Wadi'i authenticated the narration, and also Abu Bakr Nafi ibn al-Harith radiyallahu anhu, or Harith radiyallahu anhu, I can't remember the name, but Abu Bakr, not Abu Bakr, Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu. All these 4 Sahabi, very authentic narration with regards to the tawqeet, or the time of wiping. Also the narration of Khuzaymah ibn Thabit al-Ansari. This has been authenticated by Imam al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala. So we have 5 narrations, 4 of them for sure authentic, and then we have also the authentication of al-Albani rahmatullahi alayh with regards to the narration of Khuzaymah ibn Thabit radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. So when we discuss all of these narrations, and as we move on, we see that just from my collection over here, we have 19 companions who reported the masal al-khuffayn. This is more than enough to call it for sure mutawaatir. For sure mutawaatir. For sure that there cannot be any doubt about this topic. Now, where should we wipe? When we say wipe over the socks, do we wipe on top, on the sides, on the bottom? Because some people, when they wipe, so if this is the feet, they do like this on the side and everything. They think that it's doing it better. I believe there is one narration they attribute this to Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. I think Imam Shafi reported that. I do not know whether the narration is authentic or not, that Ibn Umar used to wipe the bottom. Now if this is authentic, then he used to do that, but that doesn't mean that this is correct. What is correct is only wiping on top of the socks. How do we know? And we have the narration of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. And this is reported by Imam Abu Dawud in his Sunnah, and many of the ulama, authenticated by Imam al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala, and Sheikh Shuaib al-Arnaut and others. Very beautiful narration. Qala Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, لَوْ كَانَ الدِّينُ بِالرَّأِي. If the religion was based upon opinion, logic, reasoning, لَكَانَ أَسْفَلُ الْخُفِّ أَوْلَى بِالْمَسْحِ مِنْ أَعْلَاهُ. If it was based upon just argument and opinion, it makes more sense, he's saying, to wipe the bottom and not the top. This is awla. This is more preferable. Then he says that in some cases, in many cases, it's not the logic, it's a revelation. Why? Because logic is from a human mind which is naqis. and revelation is from Allah who is Kamil. So he said, and that shows the aqeedah of the sahabah. وَقَدْ رَأَيْتُ Rasulullah, I saw the Messenger sallallahu yamsahu ala dhahiri khuffayhi, that he used to wipe on top of his khuf. That's it. Now don't say, why not bottom, why not right, why not left, unless we want to get into jidal, that many people want to get into and destroy their deen and destroy their aqeedah. This is why these things are so simple. If you study it, keep it exactly how it is, and apply this not just for masah khuffain, for everything. Wearing the khimar, growing the beard, praying the Sunni, proper Sunni way, and not saying, oh, I grew up learning a prayer this way, this has to be correct. No, it could be correct, it might not be wrong, it might be wrong. You saw today from the sahabah, Abdullah ibn Umar, who grew up with the Prophet ﷺ, he accepted Islam in Makkah with his father. And he is the one who reported that great day that his father accepted Islam ibn Khattab. In the hadith in Sahih Bukhari, when it comes to the Sirah class, we're going to discuss this, that the people were fighting him. He fought until the night, until the evening, and he got tired. And he saw all of these things. Ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Umar, he was a young boy at that time. He for some reason didn't see this, didn't get it. Sometimes people get it wrong. What are we going to do? If a Sahabi got something wrong from the Prophet ﷺ and he got corrected, cannot our people get it wrong? They can get it wrong too. And they have lived almost like 1,400 years after the Prophet ﷺ. Of course, there is a possibility that they can get so many things wrong. In many cultures, we have this. It's not just my or your culture. It's every culture. We have this. More or less, some got this, some didn't get this correct, some got this wrong, some got this one wrong, some got the other thing wrong. We all have to come back to the kitab and the Sunnah to solve our problem. Without this Sunni aqeedah, we're going to be destroyed. Now the topic comes with regards to tasakhin and jawrab. So now we have the two terms, khuf and jawrab. These are, you will always hear this, khuf and jawrab. So what is khuf? Khuf is a footwear. They say that it is made of jild, leather, skin of the animal. Okay? And the jawrab is not made of, it is also a socks, a footwear, but it is not made of leather. Amongst Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah ulama, now those who accept wiping over the socks, there's a big disagreement with regards to, can we wipe on top of socks, all types of socks or certain types of socks? Okay? Khulasatil qawl, because we cannot go into so much details, but here is the thing. When we look into the narrations of the Prophet and the Sahaba, we only see they wiped over the footwear. They did not put any condition. It has to be thick, it has to be thin, it cannot have pore, it cannot be porous, it cannot be this, it cannot be that, it cannot have holes, it cannot be so on and so forth. But some of the ulama, they put condition of different madhab. For example, the madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa, very famous. They said you cannot wipe on top of a footwear that is made of other than leather. Only leather. And it has to be, it cannot be porous, and it cannot be this, it cannot be that. They put so many conditions. And this is very famous from Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi, and all of the majority of the ulama from his madhab, except his two students, Abu Yusuf and Imam Shaybani, their position was different. Okay? Then the other ulama, from the other madhab, without going into details, some of them they put condition. They said, yes, you can wipe on top of other socks which are not made of skin, as long as they are thick. And they put condition. It cannot have holes, it cannot have this, it cannot have that, and so on and so forth. So now we have a disagreement. Very fine. But we take the disagreement to the kitab and the Sunnah. We ask those scholars, those who put condition, it has to be skin, it has to be this, it has to be that. We tell them, where did you get these conditions from? Because when we look into the Quran, when we look into the Sunnah, when we look into the practice of the Sahaba, we do not see they put any condition. The Prophet ﷺ knew that a socks can have holes. The Prophet ﷺ knew, and the Sahaba know, a sock can be made of different materials, as you will see. Okay? And they didn't put any conditions. So why are you putting conditions? So anybody now puts condition, they have to bring the proof. And if they do not bring the proof, which means what? As the Prophet ﷺ said, the hadith muttafaqun alay, any shart, any condition that is not based upon kitab of Allah, mardud, is rejected. It doesn't matter which great scholar said, in which degree he said, it does not matter. Our marji is the kitab and the sunnah ala fahmi sahabat al-kiram radiyallahu anhum. Quran and the sunnah based upon understanding of the sahaba. Now, what do we have with regards to the sahaba and the Prophet ﷺ with regards to wiping on top of the socks? Wiping on top of the socks or the footwear that are not made from skin, that are made from other materials. We have. So do we have any narration which says the Prophet wiped on top of jawrab? There is narration, authentic. However, those scholars who say you cannot wipe on top of socks which are not made of skin, they do not agree with the authenticity. But their position of not agreeing with the authenticity of those narration is wrong, number one. Second, there is other authentic narration from the Sahaba, very clear narrations, that they used to wipe on top of all sorts of materials. All sorts of materials, as we will see, inshallah. Now we have the hadith in Sunnah Abi Dawud, and this hadith has been authenticated by Shaykh Muqbil ibn Hadi al-Wadi'i on the authority of Thawban. This is the Mawla, or the freed slave of the Prophet ﷺ, who said, the Messenger ﷺ sent out an expedition, and it was very cold, and when they returned to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, he commanded them to wipe over turbans and stockings. Alal, asaibi wa tasakhin. Asaib is the head cover, and tasakhin, the ulama they say tasakhin means jawrab, meaning these are things not made with the skin, not necessarily from the skin of the animal. It could be some other material. What is the definition of jawrab? The Lisan al-Arab and Qamus al-Muhit and all these books which talks about the wordings which people are confused of, and so on and so forth, they mention that jawrab is something that covers the feet like the khuf, but they are not made from the jild. They are not made from the skin. This is the definition of jawrab. We have the narration of Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu, and this is reported by Imam Ad-Dulabi in Kitab al-Kuna wal-Asma, and has been authenticated by Sheikh Ahmed Shakir and also Sheikh Muhammad Nasiruddin al-Albani and many other ulama of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah from the Muhaddithun. One of the Tabi'i, Al-Arzaqu ibn Qais, he said, Ra'aytu Anas ibn Malik. Anas ibn Malik, this is the Khadim al-Rasul, one of the major companion. أحدث فغسل وجهه ويديه ومسح برأسه. He أحدث, meaning he broke his wudu, maybe he defecated, urinated, passed gas, slept, whatever. فغسل وجهه, he washed his face, ويديه, and washed his arms, ومسح رأسه برأسه, and he wiped his head, ومسح على جوربين, and he wiped on top of his jawrab min suf, which was made from the wool. There cannot be narration more clear than this. فَقُلْتُ, meaning Al-Arzaq ibn Qais said, I asked him, أَتَمْسَهُ عَلَيْهِمَا, do you really wipe on top of it? فَقَالَ نَعْمْ, he said, yes, إِنَّهُمَا خُفَّانِ, these are khuf, okay? وَلَكِنَّهُمَا مِنْ suf, but they are made from the suf. So this is a tafsir from one of the major Arab, from the generation of the Sahaba, from the major families of the Ansar, Banu Najjar, Anas ibn Malik al-Najjari, al-Ansari wal-Najjari, Khadim al-Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Do we need any other tafsir from anybody who came after? And they come and they say, oh, the socks cannot be like this, oh, the socks cannot be made of. And so all of the socks that we wear nowadays, they are not made of skin. They are made of different type of cotton, different type of things. And there are people who will come and tell you that you cannot wipe on top of that. Do not listen to them. Do not listen to them, because this is not the hadith of the Sahaba, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam. And there is many narration with regards to wiping on top of the socks or the footwear that is made from other than the jild. Imam al-Tirmidhi, he reported the narration of Mughira ibn Shu'bah. You remember the famous hadith of Mughira ibn Shu'bah? He said, I wanted to take off the khuf of the Prophet ﷺ, and there was some said, leave it because I put it when I was tahir. One of the version, he says, Mughira ibn Shu'bah, he said that تَوَضَّأَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ وَمَسَحَ عَلَى الْجَوْرَبَيْنِ وَالنَّعْلَيْنِ. He wiped on top of the jawrab, a socks that is not made of leather, one na'lain, and also on top of shoes, footwear. So there will be people who will come and tell you, if you are wearing a sandal or a sandal shoe and your skin is shown and you don't have any socks, you cannot wipe on top of it. And we know that we can, because the Prophet and the sahabah, they also wiped on top of their na'al, wiped on top of their shoes, and they didn't have any khuf and they didn't have any jawrab necessarily. Okay, so any footwear, shoe, sandal, boot, socks, in whatever materials, all of this is jaiz, permissible to wipe on top of it. This narration of Mughira ibn Shu'bah, Imam al-Tirmidhi authenticated it, Abu Dawud sakata anhu, and Imam al-Albani authenticated, Sheikh Ahmed Shakir authenticated, Imam Jamaluddin al-Qasimi, the alim of the Sham, he authenticated, and many of the ulama authenticated. Some of them, they said it is weak, but their argument is not correct. The good part of when Imam al-Tirmidhi reported this narration is this golden information that we have for the Hanafis. Okay, because those who make a big deal out of not wiping on top of anything other than leather. Okay, this is the golden, because Imam al-Tirmidhi, he said about Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah ta'ala, just before he died. He reported from a narrator called Salih ibn Muhammad al-Tirmidhi, who he heard directly, who heard from Abu Muqatil al-Samarqandi. Abu Muqatil al-Samarqandi, he said, I entered upon Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah ta'ala, the great Imam and the Faqih, في مرضه الذي مات فيه, during his deathbed, because of which he died. فدعا بماء. Abu Hanifa, he called for water. فَتَوَضَّأَ, he made wudu. Please pay attention. Please pay attention, because these things are reported with golden chain. People should not reject truth. Just because I'm Hanafi and I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to say, oh, my scholars know the best, my scholars know the best. This is not going to work. Because yes, our scholars, all of our scholars are great, wonderful, but we cannot close our eyes to the truth. Listen to what Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, who is one of the staunch supporter of saying that you cannot wipe on top of anything other than your leather shoes or leather socks. وَعَلَيْهِ جَوْرَبَانِ, and he had jawrab, meaning he were wearing a socks which are not made of leather. فَمَسَحَ عَلَيْهِمَا, and he wiped on top of it. ثُمَّ قال, then he said, فَعَلْتُ الْيَوْمَ شَيْئًا, I have done something today, lam akun af'aluhu, I did not do this before ever. Masahtu alal jawrabaini, I wiped on top of my jawrab, wa huma ghayru muna'alayn, and they are not muna'alayn. What is muna'alayn? Jawrab muna'alayn, when they say jawrab muna'alayn, they're talking about a socks, the bottom of which is made of leather. So shuf, yani some ulama, they said, okay, if you don't have the whole thing made of leather, at least you should have a socks, the bottom of should be of leather. We say, how? Where is the evidence? Why are you putting this condition on people? Isn't it, this is a rukhsa. If Allah has kept it open, why are you putting restriction? That's why the ulama, they say something beautiful. They say, qayyadu ma qayyad Allah. Restrict the things which Allah restricted. وَأَطْلَقُوا مَا أَطْلَقَ اللَّهِ, and keep it open what Allah kept it open. For example, if somebody says, when we raise our hand in the prayer, how much we can raise? We have two narrations. One narration says to the level of the shoulder, the other to the level of the ear. That's it. قَيَّدَ النَّبِي صلى الله عليه وسلم, meaning restricted. Now I cannot say you can raise here, or you can raise here, because all of this is raising. Or you can raise in the front, or you can raise at the back too. This is all raising hand. Right? But the Prophet restricted. So we restricted to this. قَيَّدُ مَا قَيَّدَ اللَّهِ. Whereas in some cases the Prophet didn't restrict. Like in one of these cases, the wiping over the socks. He didn't put any condition on the condition of the socks, on the material of the socks. Whether you can walk with it or not. Because people will put conditions, is crazy. So when we see a condition that is not in the kitab and the sunnah, we say, there you go. We do not have to take all of these things. And this is the greatest refutation for the Hanafis from their own Imam. But how they will say, oh no, he was in his deathbed, because maybe he didn't know what he was doing. and they will interpret this in this way and reject all of these authentic narration from the Sahaba. We are not saying we can wipe on top of the jawrab because Abu Hanifa changed his opinion. No. This is because this is from the Prophet ﷺ, the Sahaba. This is the marja. But on top of that, those who say Abu Hanifa, rahimallahu ta'ala, we tell them, okay, Imam Abu Hanifa, he's our Imam. He is your Imam, he's our Imam too, because we are all Sunni. He is the one who said you cannot, but then before his death he took back his statement. And these are how the great ulama are. Maybe somebody brought him the evidences, maybe he saw it and he was convinced and he changes. Alhamdulillah. But we are not created to follow these great Imams. We are created to follow the deen of Allah, the one which is shown by the Prophet ﷺ and understood by the Sahabat al-Kiram Ridwanullahi ajma'in. And Imam Abu Dawood, when he brings the hadith of Mughira ibn Shu'bah, he says, وَمَسَّهَ عَلَى الْجَوْرَبَيْنِ Ali ibn Abi Talib, وابن مسعود والبراء بن عازب وأنس بن مالك أبو أمامة الباهلي وسهل بن سعد وعمر بن الحارث ابن حريث ورؤيا عن ذلك عن عمر بن الخطاب وابن عباس رضي الله عنه. That's why Imam Ibn Hazm in his Muhalla, when he brings so many reports from the Sahaba, and he brings a chain of narration. Imam al-Albani, when he puts the ta'liqat of this, he mentions that all of these narrations that the Sahaba that he brings, like Anas ibn Malik, Umar ibn al-Khattab, Abu Umam al-Bahili, Abu Mas'ud al-Badri, all of these are reported by in the Musannaf of Imam Abdul Razzaq al-San'ani and the Musannaf of Ibn Abi Shayba rahimahullah ta'ala, and most of the narrations are authentic. In some cases they are even have more than one chain of narration, one chain of narration. And then he brings Imam Al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala, he brings the statement of Ibrahim al-Nakhai rahimahullah. He said that after knowing all of this, if somebody listen to what Ibrahim al-Nakhai said, and the chain of narration is authentic to Imam Ibrahim al-Nakhai, he said, فَمَنْ تَرَكَ ذَلِكَ رَغْبَةً عَنْهُ, if anybody rejects this, meaning rejecting the wiping on the jawrab, not the rejecting the whole wiping, rejecting on wiping on top of the socks which are not made of leather, they reject this based upon raghba, meaning hating it. فَإِنَّمَا هُوَ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ, because he is then for sure he is one of the shaitan. Why is one of the shaitan? Because he knows all of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ and the athar of the Sahabat al-Kiram. He has no authority to reject all of these things. And this is not our statement, this is the estimate of the great ulama al-Kiram rahimahullah ta'ala. With regards to what if it has patches and torn and this and that, some of the Salaf, they said, like Ma'mar ibn Rashid, when Abdul Razzaq asked him, his student asked him, he said, if you have patches which shows the mawdi al-wudu, the places where you will make wudu, if it shows the skin, then don't wipe on top of it. There are some athar which are authentic from the Salaf. However, these statements are not correct. What is correct is any description is fine. As-Sahabat al-Kiram radiyallahu anhum, they didn't have smooth socks. They didn't have smooth socks. That's why we have the statement of Imam Sufyan al-Thawri, which is reported in the Musannaf of Imam Abdul Razzaq al-San'ani. He said, "Imsah alayhima ma ta'allaqat bihi rijluka." Wipe on top of anything with regards to which is there on your feet. وَهَلْ كَانَتْ خِفَافُ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ, because do you think that the khuf or the footwear of the muhajir and the ansar illa mukharraqa wa mushaqqaqa wa muraqqa'atan mukharraqatan mushaqqaqatan muraqqa'atan, which means they were torn, they were cracked, and they had holes and patches. In fact, there was one expedition which was known for this, because what they did is they just had like rags or pieces of cloth, they just wrapped on top of their feet. They didn't have even proper shoes in some situation. Not because they didn't have money, but there was short of supplies of things. Things were not being produced like so abundantly, and there was no all this trade routes so easily coming in our time. It was not as easy in their time. So they had to do with whatever they had. And all of this was jaiz, allowed from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He did not put any condition, and this is known fact from the Sahabat al-Kiram ridwanullahi ajma'in. Now if I wipe on top of my socks or footwear, then I take it off, is my tahara or wudu gone? What happens? We have the narration of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu in Musannaf Abdul Razzaq as-San'ani, and Imam al-Albani, he said the isnad is sahih according to the Shaykhain in his checking of Tamam al-Minna. One of the tabi said, I saw Ali urinating while standing until he finished. Then he made wudu and wiped on his ni'al, on his shoes. Then he entered the masjid and he took it off, took his shoes and he put it in his in his sleeves, and then he prayed. And this is from Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. So don't listen to those people who say that if you take off your footwear, you lose your wudu. No, you don't lose your wudu, but what you lose is the privilege of wiping on top of that specific layer, inshallah ta'ala. Also with regards to, we have the hadith of Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. They asked, one of the tabi asked Ibn Umar that I saw you, whose name is Abu Sa'id al-Maqburi. He asked Ibn Umar that I saw you do something today which I never saw anybody doing. He said, what is that? He said, you are wearing ni'ala sabtiya. Ni'ala sabtiya is a kind of a shoe or a footwear which has two straps. How these two straps were, we do not know. If this is the footwear, for example, if this is the footwear, for example, where the two straps like this or like this, like the way we have the flip-flops, Allahu Alam. But they used to call this type of ni'al sabtiya. So when he asked, he said, Inni ra'aytu Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam yalbisuha. I saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wearing this, meaning ni'ala sabtiya, wa yatawadda fiha, and he used to make wudu while he was wearing the ni'ala sabtiya, wa yamsahu alayha, and he used to wipe on top of the ni'al. And all of this now is very clear that any type of footwear, whether it is a shoe or a sandal or any kind of socks, whether it's made of leather or cotton, whether it has hole, whether a certain part of your feet is shown or not shown, all of these are permissible for us to wipe on top, inshallah. Khulasat al-qawl, my brothers and sisters, let's go through the gist of it. From the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ and the sahabah, wiping is allowed for a traveler and also for a resident. The narrations are mutawaatir. No one denies except the rafidis and the khawarji. The ulamah put this especially in the books of aqeedah for the reason that we describe. The difference of opinion amongst Ahlul Sunnah ulama is not with regards to whether we can wipe or not wipe, but with regards to the material and with regards to the time and when the time starts and so on and so forth. But these differences of opinion has to be solved by going back to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The socks can be, or the footwear, let me say the footwear. The footwear can be of any material, leather, non-leather, holes, no holes, pores, no pores, see-through, completely opaque, doesn't matter. Shoes, sandals, boots, any part, exposed, not exposed, as long as it is a footwear, then you can wipe on top of it. What about flip-flops? Yes, flip-flops too. Flip-flops too. If you wore it, you made your wudu where you washed your feet, then you wear a flip-flop. And then you kept on wearing it and you broke your wudu on top of your flip-flop. Now, as long as you don't take it off, you make the next wudu, you can just wipe on top of it. You don't have to wash your feet. This is from the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The footwear should be worn while the wudu is valid, the wudu where we washed our feet. We have to keep wearing the footwear when we are breaking the wudu. The footwear upon which we break our original wudu is the footwear upon which we can wipe, as long as we do not take it off after we broke the wudu. If we take it off, then we cannot wipe on top of it. We lose the privilege of wiping. The wiping can be only done as long as this layer is not taken off after we break our wudu while wearing it. Once we take it off, we lose the privilege of wiping on top of it. The wiping is for 24 hours for the residents and 72 hours for the travelers. The clock starts ticking. Now, when the clock starts ticking? Is it when you did the first wudu where you washed your feet? Is it when you broke your wudu? And the ulama have so many different positions with regards to that. But the correct position is the clock of 24 hours for the muqim or the resident, and the 72 hours for the traveler starts ticking or starts clocking. The clock starts ticking the first time when you wiped on top of the footwear upon which you broke your wudu. This is the correct position without any doubt. The wiping could be done. There is a need and there is no need. For example, I am absolutely fine to take off my socks and wash. There is no, it's not, weather is not cold, nothing is harming me. Can I wipe on top of? For sure. So it is not based upon need or no need. It is rukhsa for all situation. Because people will tell you, if it is difficult, then and only then you can wipe. If it is easy, then you should not wipe, you have to wash. We say, what is the dalil? What is the proof? There is no proof for this. The wiping is a rukhsa, not an azima. So here is the thing, don't make it obligation upon people. So if you don't wipe, you're going to Jahannam. A'udhu billah. No, we tell them that wiping is part of our aqeedah. The Prophet did it, we don't deny it. And it's a rukhsa. You want to take it? Take it. And you don't want to take it, that's fine. That is fine. Because if somebody says, I know this is rukhsa, I have no problem taking rukhsa, but I just want to wash it. Wonderful. Then wash it. Because this person is not denying wiping. He's just saying, I just want to wash. And there is no problem in that. Okay? But in such scenario, some of the ulama, they say that wiping is better because you're taking the rukhsa. And Allahu alam. But here is the thing, it cannot be denied. There should not be any question mark. Say, I don't wipe it because, I'm not sure. Why cannot be sure? It is mutawaatir narration. Even if it's from one sahabi and it's authentic, you should not have any problem in your heart about it. There is so many things which are so important came from only one sahabi. Can we say, I'm not sure? So what about the one who came from more than 19? In fact, in some of the, I just don't have time today, but some of the ulama, they say, for example, they reported, I think Imam Ibn Abdul Bar, he reported on the authority of Hassan al-Basri, he said 70 companions reported to me. 70 companions reported to me about the wipings of the socks. We have some very beautiful statement from Imam Ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala, but the time is short and people always complain I make things long, so I want to keep it short. That's why I'm not mentioning all those things, inshallah. Maybe next time. Denying to wipe based upon I am not sure and doubting wiping is a grave sin and will lead to kufr in some cases, disbelief, if somebody knowingly denies it. This is why the ulama put this in the category of aqeedah. Once we wipe on a footwear and we take it off, then we do not lose the tahara. Very important. So let's say that I wiped on top of my socks and then I took off the socks. Did I lose my tahara? No, I'm still tahir. However, I lost the privilege on wiping on top of that specific layer which I took off. Now if I put it back on, that's fine, I can put it back on, but next time when I make wudu, I cannot wipe on top of it. If there is another layer beneath it, okay, it's still existing, then maybe I can wipe on top of it. But not on that one which I open. Inshallah, I'm going to give you some example at the end. I hope inshallah should be clear. If we started wiping while traveler, and more than a day has passed, let's say I'm in Austin, we are with the residents of Austin, and we were a traveler, we started wiping. By the time we entered Austin, it has been more than 24 hours. Now, what should the person do? Can he also keep on wiping another 24 hours? The answer is no. He loses the privilege because his clock says he wiped for 24 hours. Now he is a mukim, he has nothing left. But now the other thing, which is now, let's say that somebody started wiping, he is a traveler. Let's say I'm a resident. Let's say I'm in Austin. I put my socks on in the morning and I started wiping, and then in the evening we are leaving town. I wiped for about, let's say, 10 hours. There is another, 14 hours left for my wiping. But now I start my journey. Can I keep on wiping? Yes, I can. Until the total amount of time from the first time I wiped becomes 3 days, 72 hours. So in both cases, as you can see, the original ruling works. 24, 72, and the original ruling, the clock start ticking the first time that you wiped on top of your footwear. I mentioned that. Okay. If we are wearing multiple layers of footwear, and let's say we broke our wudu on a pair of socks and shoes, and then we wiped on top of our shoe, then we took off our shoe, now we lost privilege to wipe on top of the shoe, but we didn't lose the wudu, not necessarily, until we did hadath, passed gas or went to the bathroom or slept, then broke the wudu. Now next time when he has to make wudu, he cannot wipe on top of his shoe anymore, but he can wipe on top of his socks, as long as he keeps the clock ticking correctly. 24 for resident, 72 for traveler. So this is when we have multiple layers of footwear when you are wearing that. What about wiping on cap? Because we heard that the Prophet used to wipe on the khimar, on the asaib, on the amama and all that. This is not like wiping on top of the socks. Some ulama, they put a condition. They said you cannot wipe on top of your khimar unless originally you wiped on top of your head. No proof for this. The Prophet wiped on top of his khimar, and he did not put any condition for wiping on top of khimar. So if anybody wants to put a condition on that, that condition has to be taken back to the kitab and the Sunnah. So there is no condition, so this condition will not work. So what is the correct hadith? The correct hadith, keep it as the Prophet did, which is, you are making wudu and you have a cap on. Do you have to take off your cap and wipe? No, you don't have to. Can you take off your cap and wipe? Yes, you can. Can you wipe on top of your cap? Yes, you can. Same thing with the sisters. They don't have wudu. They're making the first wudu where they have to wash everything and wipe everything. They have their hijab on, their khimar on, everything is covered. Do they really have to take off their khimar and wipe? If they want to, they can. But rukhsa, Allah made it easy for you. Wipe on top of your khimar. Now let's say if I take off my khimar, is my wudu gone? No, it's not gone. Do I have to make wudu? No, you don't have to make wudu. None of the rules of wiping on top of the socks applied to wiping on top of the head. With regards to wiping on top of the ear, I'm not sure. Because if this is covered by the khimar, I cannot exactly answer right now. I have to check. So we will inshallah check and know. But as for the head, for sure, this is the correct position. Okay. 2 examples, with that we will finish. I made wudu at 10 a.m. I put my red socks at 10:30 a.m. I took off my red socks at 11 a.m. I put another sock, my blue socks, at 12 p.m. Then I broke my wudu while I was wearing my blue socks at 5 p.m. If I make wudu next time, can I wipe on top of my blue socks? The answer is yes, I can. Because I was wearing the blue socks when I broke my wudu at 5 p.m. If I made wudu at 10 p.m. and then I wiped on my blue socks, the first time, when that is the time when the clock starts ticking. So the clock will not start ticking when I broke my wudu at 5. It will start ticking at the first time I wiped on top of my blue socks. Another example. I made wudu at 9 a.m. Then I wore my socks and shoes at 10 a.m. Now I have 2 layers of footwear. Pay attention. Then I broke my wudu at 11 a.m. while I was wearing my shoes and socks. If I now have to make a wudu, I broke my wudu and I have to make my wudu and I want to wipe on top of my footwear. Can I wipe on top of my shoes? Yes, I can. Because I was wearing my socks and my shoes while I broke my wudu. And once I broke my wudu, I did not take off my shoes. So I can wipe on top of my shoes if I want to. But what if I want to take off my shoes and just wipe on top of my socks? Can I do that? Of course you can do that. What if I want to take off both and wash my feet? Can I do that? Yes, you can do that. As long as you know that wiping is sunnah and you're just doing it because you just want to do it. You are a worshipper of Allah. This is between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what if I I made my wudu at 9 a.m. I wore my shoes and socks at 10 a.m. And then I broke my wudu at 11 a.m. and then I took off my shoes at 12 p.m. and now I want to make my second wudu where I want to have to wipe now at 5 p.m. Can I wipe on top of my shoes? The answer is no, I cannot. Why? Because if you remember, at 11 a.m. I broke my wudu while I was wearing my shoes and my socks. Had I not taken my shoes, I could have wiped on top of it. But since I took it off at 12 p.m. and then later on I put it back on too. But when I put it back on, I was not tahir anymore. So I lose the privilege on wiping on top of that footwear. However, I had another footwear inside. I didn't lose privilege on wiping on top of it. Why? Because I didn't take off the socks. Had I taken off the socks also, I would also lose the privilege on wiping on top of it, inshallah. This is with regards to what we have from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ and the sahabah al-kiram. The winter is coming. A lot of time the brothers are in the office and they have to make wudu and they are shy to put the foot on top to wash and so on and so forth. But here is the thing, like, you don't have to really put your foot on top of the basin to wash your feet. Wudu can be done with just you can wash your feet with just 1 teaspoon of water. Try it. Try it and you will see. Maybe first time you will not be successful, but if you keep on doing it, 1 teaspoon. And that, very simple. You can just go in a corner and wash it, and in a matter of seconds the water will evaporate. Shouldn't be a problem. But anyway, this saves a lot of trouble. If you know the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and sometimes people just have confusion because they hear different things. Oh, you cannot wipe on the socks. Oh, it is not made of leather. Oh, you have holes, and oh, you have this, and oh, you have that. Confusion. Similarly, our children, they are going to colleges and schools and they have problem too. We need to teach them the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Islam is very simple. Islam is very easy as long as we want to keep it simple and easy. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.